Hello everyone, it's good to see you again. Now today in our Doodle Corner, we are going to be talking about a very special plant, the Japanese cherry blossom tree. Now the reason we are talking about this plant today is actually because every year in spring through March and April, we have a large festival celebrating this tree in our capital, Washington, D.C., along the Potomac River. Now, there are thousands of trees along this river that we have planted over 100 years ago. Actually, in 1912, Tokyo, Japan, a country that's on the other side of the world, sent us over 3,000 Japanese cherry blossoms that were growing in their country. They have had them for hundreds of years, much like we have had our redwood trees. Now, they gave us these 3,000 plants for us to be able to start our own park out in our capital. And now we celebrate it every year, and it looks beautiful in the spring because these blossoms bloom and cover the entire tree in pink flowers. Now, every year that we celebrate, we also choose an artist to create an art that celebrates this when we go to the festival. This year, the artist was Matt Long, and he used the same media that we are going to use today. He used Sharpies, and he used paint to create his art. Now, the reason I find this so important is because not very long ago in 2011, Japan was hit with a devastating tsunami that destroyed a lot of its cherry blossoms trees. So to reach out in friendship, we sent back a lot of the seeds and the trees that they had given us over 100 years ago for them to restart planting again and grow these beautiful trees in their country as well. So it's very important to remember that friendship is about being there for each other in our time of need and helping each other. So as beautiful as they are, always remember that as well. So I hope you join me today in creating your own cherry blossom tree using paint, Q-tips, and Sharpies. I can't wait to see what you come up with, my friends. We are going to need some white paint, some red paint, and some black paint. You'll need a brush as well. If you don't have black paint, then go ahead and use a Sharpie. We'll also need some colored paper, and we'll need some Q-tips. I'm using about 6 of them today. I would suggest that you use at least 3. You'll need somewhere to place and mix your paint, and a small piece of tape. Now let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is prepare our Q-tips and make them into a small brush. Now the first thing you will do is make sure that they're all leveled. That means one is not sticking above the other. Grab a small piece of tape and double check your Q-tips. Then you're going to wrap the tape around the middle of your Q-tips to make sure that they all stick together. Once you've wrapped the tape, make sure that they're leveled. They're all at the same length, and they're in a position that you'd like. And now your Q-tip brush is ready. Our next step is going to be to paint the tree trunk, its roots, and its branches. So I'm going to load up my brush with a little bit of water. That means I'm going to make sure there's plenty of paint on it. And I'm going to start with a straightish line right down the middle of my paper. I do not want this line to go all the way to the top or to the bottom because I'm still going to add my roots and my branches. So just brush back and forth gently until you have a line that you like. Now I'm going to go to the bottom to make the roots, which is going to be much the same like making the tree branches. You're just going to brush on some squiggly, swervy lines coming out of the bottom of the tree. And remember, the more roots that our tree has, the stronger of a plant that it is. So don't be afraid to add as many lines as you would like. Now I'm going to do the same thing at the top, but this time they're going to be branches. So again, just some swervy lines that come out of my tree trunk. I'm going to start with a few large branches, and then I'm going to come back in with the paint to make baby branches that are sprouting out of my big branches at the top. So now that I have the big ones, I'm going to come back in, and then I'm just going to shoot some small straight lines out of those big tree trunks, just like this. You can add as many branches as you would like. If you do not have black paint, you may also use a black Sharpie and do this exact same step. Just make sure you fill in your trunk and your thicker branches so that they're nice and full of black ink. I'm using a combination to show you an example of how to draw them with the Sharpie. Now we are going to mix our paint to create the color that we need. Every time you are going to make a tint of something, you always want to start with your white first, because the other color that you mix in is going to be much more powerful. So give yourself a good amount of white and then come in with your other color and start with very little. You can always add more, but it's very, very difficult to make something lighter once it's already become too dark. So I have a lot of white and a little bit of red, and I'm going to use my Q-tip brush to mix them very well until that I see that my paint has turned into pink. A tint of a color is when you add white to it and make it lighter. So the color pink is actually a tint of red. Now you can see we have our color. I'm going to give myself a little bit of red so that I can have some variety later as well. Now that our paint is ready, I am going to use my Q-tip brush to stamp cherry blossoms onto my tree branches. So just dip your Q-tip brush, and then you're going to come over to your paper and gently stamp down. And you'll see that it makes a variety of dots on your paper to create the cherry blossoms. Now I am holding down my paper with my other hand gently because this brush does tend to get a little bit sticky, and you'll see that it's going to try to lift up your paper a bit. So just hold it down with your other hand and that should take care of that problem. Now you can add as many cherry blossoms as you choose. Just try to touch each branch that you have made at least once. You may also want to stamp some cherry blossoms that are falling off of the tree, because sometimes a breeze comes through and some of the blossoms fall off and pollinate somewhere else to create other trees. But this is up to you. Now set it aside to dry. There you are, my friends, a simple and easy way to create a beautiful cherry blossom tree. I'll see you all next time.